Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commbox Live. I'm Behram Kazi, who you can find at Def Mango on Twitter, and with me is my colleague Varun Alvaconda, who you cannot find on social media even when you try. Jared will also join us later. He's currently busy with a recording, and we are here to review Day 2 of the Super 8 stage in the 2026 T20 World Cup. Varun, we've got a big result tonight. South Africa have literally vaporized India at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. They've defeated them by 76 runs, and India have also incurred a pretty big net run rate blow. So, I thought that South Africa were capable of defeating India, but I did not see them steamroll India in the fashion which they did.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think all of it, like everyone thought South Africa could beat them, but not by this big a margin. I think that's what,
Yeah.
and also because this Indian team, even when they lose, don't really lose very big. You can maybe count one or two results, like the first T20 versus Australia, or sorry, the second T20 versus Australia, where they kind of get like outplayed from start to end. Like even when they're bad, they lose by like 20 runs. This was a big defeat for them. Almost everything that could go wrong went wrong for India in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, man. And South Africa exacted their revenge on India for the 2024 T20 World Cup final in Barbados. This was also India's first ever loss in a T20 World Cup since that wretched or dreaded semi-final loss to England by 10 wickets back in 2022 in Adelaide. So it had been that long. And again, I could see a world in which India lost this game, but the manner in which they lost this game is something that has surprised all of us. It was a mixture of black soil and red soil as far as the conditions are concerned, Varun. Both captains would have batted first had they won the
Oh,
toss.
I
And of
was
course,
still.
South Africa.
I thought this was just black soil. I think that's
Oh,
what
was it?
the people were saying in the group chat. Yeah, I think Deepak
Interesting.
thought it was mixed, and then
Okay.
said that it was completely black soil.
Gotcha. Because Deepak said initially 75% black soil,
Mhm.
25% red soil. But Sean Pollock also mentioned that, it might be 100% black soil over here. But, both captains, they wanted to bat first had they won the toss. And that's what South Africa did. Markram elected to bat first. Funny how both of those sides were quite convinced that there'll be no dew in this game. And there wasn't much dew. So I suppose they were right.
Indeed.
Yeah. Also, I suppose the burning question of the day is that India opted to play Washington Sundar ahead of Akshar Patel. Personally, I would have played Akshar Patel ahead of Washington because he's also a crisis batter for India, not just a slow left armour. And even though South Africa had Quinton de Kock, David Miller, and Ryan Rickleton, three southpaws, left-handed batters in their 11, I don't know, man. Playing Washington ahead of Akshar is still a very radical move for me. And then he also came up the order to bat, which you thought was a good call, but I would have sent Hardik into bat at that point.
No, I didn't mind that move simply because I understand not wanting to risk lose Hardik in that situation, and I understand not sending Dubey in that situation. Also, the Washington ahead of Akshar also doesn't make sense because like since the last T20 World Cup, Akshar has been just as good to both batting types. So from like this is one of those things that annoys both matchups people and stats people because stats don't suggest you should drop Akshar if against left-handers, right? And then all the what do you call people that hate the matchups are just going to have more ammunition. So it's just going to be so annoying now to deal with this for the next few days now.
I'm sure that Gautam Gambhir will be under the pump and he'll face a lot of heat now that, after this call, India have been kind of blown away and it was absolute carnage at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. But yeah, I think that Akshar Patel is a much better T20 asset than Washington Sundar. That's kind of where I draw the line. Forget what sort of batting types he's effective against. I understand what you're saying. Stats suggest that left-handed batter, right-handed batter, it doesn't make a difference to Akshar. But still, just as a commodity, I feel like Akshar is a few notches ahead of Washington, not just even slightly better, right?
Yeah, completely agree with you. The only argument I see for Washington is he's in theory a slightly better pace hitter. I don't think he's always shown it in T20Is, mainly because I don't think India know how to use him in T20Is, but that seems to just be an everywhere problem with Washington in T20s. Like everyone thinks he's talented, but no one knows how to use him. So like you definitely Akshar, without a doubt, right? You always play Akshar in these. He's one of the first names that should be on your team sheet. I don't know why they dropped him. It's weird.
He was such an essential cog in India's T20 World Cup triumph in the previous edition, right? Like Akshar Patel batting at 5 and his slow left armers. I feel like it's a tactical blunder. But I'll also say this, Varun. India did not lose this game because they didn't play Akshar Patel. That's not where the game was lost. The margin of defeat is 76 runs. And, South Africa had a very dodgy start. They lost 3 early wickets. They were 20 for 3 after 4 overs. Then it was a brilliant recovery job by both of David Miller and Devol Brevis, baby AB. So after being 20 for 3 in 4 overs, South Africa managed to get 41 for 3 after the power play. That's what the score was in 6 overs. At the 10 over mark, they had improved even more. They were 84 for 3 after 10 overs. After the Hardik Pandya no ball, which if you were watching the live, it was completely caused by me. I was praising Hardik so much.
Yes.
And turned out there was a no ball. Then they really accelerated, right? South Africa moved to 144 for 4 in 15 overs, and then they kind of shat the bed at the death. They only ended up with 187 for 7 in 20 overs, and that's also because of the 2 sixes that Tristan Stubbs slammed versus Hardik Pandya on the last 2 balls of the innings. So it was a very interesting sort of progression where South Africa start poorly, then there's this brilliant chunk in the middle, and then they finished poorly as well. But 187 was a target where I thought this would be a really competitive game, but South Africa hadn't won it just yet, at least in my mind. Turns out it was 76 runs more than they required.
Yeah, I think everyone misjudged this pitch because, like, I was speaking to Himanish during this, and he was saying Chakravarti was getting no turn, and that he was actually not bowling too full. When I was watching, I initially thought he was just not getting his length right. That's actually not the case. He was doing what he usually does. They just played him really well. Like Miller attacked him well, and Devol Brevis was moving around his crease very well. So it was a really good batting effort by them. And again, this is one of those things where this is why the old school thinking of it consolidates after losing early wickets is a horrendous idea, because it's always a double negative, isn't it? You never want to go at a below par run rate after losing early wickets, because when you lose early wickets, you lose some runs from what you should get at the end. If you go at a below par rate, you also lose runs from what you're expected to get. You do both of them together. That's why you end up with you lose 75% of the games if you lose 3 wickets in the power play, like moronic stat, right? It's of course you'll lose it if you're going at a slow rate after you already lost your best batters. So this is like they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They went at a normal rate. They weren't attacking like idiots, which I think we'll get to what Sri Lanka did, where they were attacking like idiots at some point, but that's not what South Africa did. They batted well, they batted decently. So I was looking at, I think from the 5th over to the 13th over, there's only 1 over where they get below 10 runs an over, which is an insane streak of boundaries. And there was a period for, I want to say 8 to 12, they scored 55 runs, which is probably like put them so far ahead in this game, even after the stumbling they had after the Miller wicket.
Save the Sri Lanka stuff for later, of course. Jared Kimber has joined us in this live show. Jared, a 76-run drubbing for India at the hands of South Africa. Varun and I were just discussing how both of us saw that potentially South Africa is that team that could defeat India, but this was a massacre. This was absolute carnage, right? Like, who would have thought that India would just get blown to shreds like this?
Yeah, I think... Did Kuldeep play in the previous game, Varun? I'm trying to remember what their lineup was.
He plays versus Pakistan, not versus Netherlands.
Yeah. Washington played in that game as well versus the Netherlands, and he's played again today ahead of Akshar, and we've already discussed this, but I'd love to hear your opinions because we think that was the wrong call.
I don't think it had anything to do with this game. Whether
it didn't matter in the end.
Right, so you can say it's the wrong call, but that's essentially what they needed was an extra seamer in this game. And that's actually how they've lost the game. And I don't really blame them because I don't think coming in they would have thought to themselves they needed the extra specialist seamer. But you go through the stats in this game. I know Maharaj will end up with very good stats, but when the game was on, Maharaj was still getting pumped, right? All the spinners were getting pumped at various times. And when they got to the death specifically, Varun can talk about this a lot more than I can, but Tristan Stubbs basically doesn't try and hit boundaries until the last over, right? Yep. And so having a fifth
distributing Dhoni, Jared.
Yeah.
Distributing Dhoni, Jared. Everyone was distributing Dhoni today.
Yeah. So I think with that, you then have a situation where you have to have a specialist bowler at the end, right? And they didn't have another specialist seamer, and they also got screwed over with Dubé because. Realistically, I think if they'd known the wicket was that bad for spin, Dubé would have bowled it earlier before the partnership was set. But by the time Sky brought him on, that partnership was rocking and rolling. And what did he go for in his 2 overs? Was it
32? I want to say
quite a lot.
Yeah,
and 31 or 32. I think that
was low.
Agreed.
I thought he could have gone for 45. Yeah,
which was a bonus wicket, I suppose. But we were talking about the rescue act by both of David Miller and Devol Brevis. South Africa 20 for 3 after 4 overs. They looked to be completely out of the game. Then 41 for 3 in the power play, 84 for 3 in 10 overs. They really pick up the pace by over 15. They're 144 for 4. And then they capitulate towards the death. If you take Stubbs' 2 sixes of the last 2 balls out, they score basically nothing. But they end up with 187 for 7 in 20. India, on the other hand, they were also kind of done in the power play, right? 31 for 3 after their power play, and was tough over from there.
Yeah, it's just different when you're chasing that kind of a
Are you
total,
guys with
though,
me?
isn't it? I'm here. Can you hear me? I don't even know if we're all. Are we online?
And-
Is this a video?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, it is a video. Varun was frozen in between. And India never really could recover in the same way that South Africa did. By the 10 over mark, they were 57 for 5, and ultimately they're all out for 111 and 18.5 overs. Let's talk about some Indian performers first before we move on to South Africa, because there are plenty over there. I think one person who's really unlucky to not finish on the winning side today is Jasprit Bumrah. He was on an absolute tear. He's been in not so good form in the recent past in T20s. He hasn't been Bumrahing. And today he Bumrahed, right? He trimmed Quinton de Kock's bail with his 5th ball.
Yeah.
Then he dismisses Ryan Rickleton, inducing a leading edge with his 12th ball, so last ball of his 2nd over. 2 for 7 in the power play. Ends up with figures of 315 overall in 4 overs, and also picks up a wonderful catch, that cotton bowled, right? Brilliant stuff by Jasprit.
Yeah, look, he was fantastic. I think did he start with, or was it early on in his spell? He bowled the full toss outside off stump. And I was like, oh, God, he's still not got it back. Because the amount of times in this tournament, I've seen him come on and bowl like a wide down leg side to start. It's just like, he's just not been on it. And I'm not sure he bowled many more bad balls at all. I think he bowled like 12 dots all the way through. His control of the slow balls. I think he understood the surface. And also, I think to be fair of the bowlers that they have, they've got a swing bowler, they've got a hit the pitch bowler, and then they've got Dubé, whatever he is. The guy that it probably suited the best was going to be the guy who ran his fingers over the ball at times, and that is what Bumrah did after getting that early wicket of Quinton de Kock. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I thought Arshdeep bowled really well as well, though. As I was saying, like if you go through the stats, you do get a bit of an idea of just how good the seamers were compared to the spinners, all the way until Maharaj takes 3 wickets in that final over, right? So I thought he bowled okay. And what was Hardik? Hardik had about 3 overs for 25. Absolutely fine before that last over.
Hardik, went for plenty in his last over. In fact, it was the last ball of
No,
his
he had
second
3
over
overs
he
for
bowls-
25, and then he gets smashed at the end. So, I mean, you know, you take...
I think it
you-
was
if
4,
you-
11, 10, and like 20. One might have been that for Hardik.
Yes.
Yeah. But even so, I think you take that of your 5th bowler, right? Like, I don't think you have any issue with
I don't think
that,
it's bad.
right? It's just that last over, which you probably don't want you know, and we've seen it a lot in this tournament. Teams are taking a lot of risks in the last over with their 5th bowler, even their 6th bowlers at times, right? And occasionally you just get smashed. And that's what happened. You know, and there wasn't much else they could do really, because, you know, Shivam and Washington, like Washington got away with a pretty bad over, I thought, early on, where he could have got hammered as well. There just wasn't really anything in the surface. I don't know if Varun's talked about this, but I think Himanesh was saying that the lengths of Varun were fine. It was just that the ball wasn't doing anything off the surface. So South Africa was basically playing him the way that Daryl Mitchell would play Kuldeep Yadav. A step down and then a hit straight through the line.
Also, I mean, if you look at India's bowling charts, right? Bumrah, of course, was exceptional with his 3 for 15. But the next best bowler is Arshdeep, who was getting some swing with the new ball. He was getting that ball to shape in the left-hander, and he was hitting a good length. And Hardik was doing the same thing up until that dreaded no ball, after which he kind of goes for plenty, right? But Akshar Patel, not Akshar Patel, he didn't even play.
He struggled.
Arshdeep Singh actually had figures of 1 for 22 in 3 power play overs and ended up with a really good death over as well. Picked up a wicket, only conceded 7 runs, out of which 1 was a leg by. So 2 for 28 for him, who was the second best bowler for India. But what did you make of the tactic? Sky went Arshdeep, Bumrah, Hardik with the last over. I would have gone Hardik, Bumrah, Arshdeep with the last over.
I think what you're generally trying to do is you're doing that sort of grandpa thing of like the best bowler has to bowl earlier, right? And it's like, that makes sense. But in their mind, they're thinking, well, if Arshdeep gets a wicket here, then who are they going to have left? Like, who was batting with him? They were, 8 down? 7 down, right? So they're thinking 1 more wicket here from Arshdeep, or a couple of wickets here from Arshdeep, gets us into the position. And Arshdeep got the Marco Janssen wicket. So if Marco Janssen and Tristan Stubbs are going, right? That I know that was a little bit earlier. Maybe I'm trying to remember what over that was. That was the 18th over, right? So it actually played out perfectly for South Africa. That's what they wanted. They brought Arshdeep back to get a wicket. Jasprit bowls his normal over, and it's all fine. The gamble was that they had that other over at the end. they had Rabada out there. They just couldn't get him on strike, right? And that's kind of the thing you're playing. Also, Hardix bowled really well at times in this tournament. He bowled a shit over, right? Like sometimes you just bowl a shit over. And to be fair to Stubbs, he capitalized on that. Again,
Absolutely.
these things happen. We've seen other people in this tournament bowl shit overs and get away with it. What's Corbin Bosch's figures today? Because I can tell you one thing, he did not deserve. He did not deserve 2 for 12 from 3.
Yeah, Corbin Bosch removed Washington with his second ball, I believe. Yeah, that was a caught behind.
Absolute
and then
rank shithouse ball outside off stump that should have been hit for 12. And then
the Sky dismissal.
But that was down the leg side, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a very poor ball. Sky has a leading edge, goes straight into Dewald Brevis's hands at short mid wicket, and that was the first ball of his second over. So all of a sudden, Corbin Bosch has bowled 7 deliveries and picked up 2 wickets off not so good balls. But
and those
2
are both
for 12
bowlers,
in 3
right?
overs. Yeah, 2 for 12 in 3
Do you see
overs.
what I'm saying?
If
So
you just look at the
sometimes,
figures.
so sometimes you can just get away with it, right? And sometimes you don't. Stubbs could have hit that first one straight up in the air and gets caught. And suddenly you've got, I'm trying to even think, would it be Ngidi coming in next or Maharaj trying to slog at the end? They might not have got any runs. They might have got like 4 runs from the remainder of that over. And, so I don't think they did it wrong. It just didn't work. And as I said before, I think the bigger issue was, and no one knew this pitch was going to be, like Markram opened the bowling. Right, so it's not as if even South Africa was still a little bit of like, maybe there's some spin here, and then they just stopped bowling him. They just realized that this was not a wicket for spin at all. It was a wicket for seam. They got their bonus wicket and they fucked off to the pub really. And then Maharaj came back on. Like when does Maharaj take? Was it his second over? He takes all the wickets.
Third over. So Maharaj was gone, or he was going for plenty. I think after 2 overs, his figures read none for 22. Then he picks up 3 wickets in his third over to end with 3 for 24. All 3 catches by Tristan Stubbs, by the way. Is that a record? It has to be a record.
I've actually seen that before, by the way. That was the 15th over, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know how often Maharaj on a wicket like this wouldn't normally have bowled his overs a lot earlier. So they were holding him back until the game was basically gone. So look, I think these sorts of things happen, and it's worth looking at that. It's also worth looking at that they're really, we were worried about Arshdeep's form. He looked okay today. Varun Chakravarti had been bowling absolutely, unhittable deliveries all the way through this tournament. Jasper's form was the one that we were worried about. Well, those two have switched around in this particular game, right?
Yeah.
The issue really is that shouldn't have been as unchaseable as India made it look.
Yeah, no, I agree. Of course, Bumrah had a worldie of a game. Arshdeep was really good. Varun had a bad day, but the wicket didn't offer much for the spinners. One big difference between both teams, again, this is not where the game was won or lost, but generally, India didn't drop any catches, but their ground fielding was a bit dodgy. I wasn't particularly impressed with their ground fielding, whereas South Africa ultimately dropped 2 catches. I think it was Ryan Rickleton and David Miller who both dropped Shivam Dubey, but apart from that, they were spotless as far as their ground fielding is concerned.
I think the game was basically done, wasn't it?
Exactly. The game was done by then. But look at South Africa's ground fielding and their catching, and Tristan Stubbs alone takes 3 catches in an over. I think that was a big difference. They were showing how South Africa had dropped like 5 catches in the tournament up until a certain point. Now it's probably 7. And 4 of those came in one game versus an associate team, which I cannot remember. So it is the strength of South African cricket, and I feel they were really switched on in the field today.
Yeah, there were some great boundary saves and everything, wasn't there? Look, they're very good at those sorts of things, and they did well. Again, I'm not sure that's kind of how they won the game, right? It was probably they got the RC wicket with Markram, as I said before. There was something in that wicket for seam, and we saw it when Abhishek and Tilak were out. And then they got those sort of the tinny wickets from Bosch as well. And by that stage, the game was kind of done, right? And India were just so far behind. It was really hard for them from that point forward. I know Varun probably wanted them to try and hit their way out of it, which is fair. But they also, at that point, it was so early in the game, they probably weren't that comfortable in doing that, right? So when Sky goes out at the 10th over, they're probably thinking they want to start hitting her out. They're probably doing what I was doing, which is the massive, they're going to have to bowl Maharaj here, right? That was my thinking the whole way through, was they're going to have to bowl Maharaj, and I want to hit 20 runs off that over from Maharaj, and that starts it. And instead of hitting 20 runs off the Maharaj over, they find Tristan Stubbs 3 times, which, shit happens.
Yeah, and
I think
was amazing.
I think after the power play, I wanted them to be like 70 for 3 after 10 overs. I think they were 31 for 3 in the power play, so that's what I wanted them to be. And then I think they were kind of on track to get that till Sky got up, I want to say. So maybe they
I
were
didn't
behind just slightly.
I didn't put this in their group, but I was thinking this at the time that, but I was working about 3 different pieces that kept falling apart because the game kept going in different directions. But I was thinking about this at the group that when Stubbs hit that final over, it's either it was going to be an extreme final over. It was either going to be the final over that like looks really good but means nothing because India just get on a roll, or it's going to be the final over which is like, actually takes it away from what is a chaseable total, right? And means that India is always having to put their foot down a little bit more. And you know, in this case, it was the latter of those two. And once they got the early wickets, I think their wickets were a lot tougher than what South Africa's wickets were, even though both teams lost their top order cheap, just because of that Stubbs over had made it a little bit more difficult. And I think it was Pratib in our group chat from Cricket by JB who was talking about the fact that India has played all their warm-ups on the flattest pitches available, and they scored 270 and 220 and 206. This was a wicket where you could score runs on. I don't want to pretend like it was an impossible wicket or anything like that, but it was not. It was more of a World Cup wicket than it was a bilateral wicket, right? And because of that, it feels like India hasn't quite managed to recalibrate their batting to the wickets that they are playing on at the moment. And then the other thing is just these things happen in short form tournaments. Sometimes you're just not in great form. You know, they didn't bat brilliantly against the Netherlands. They gave up wickets against Namibia. After Ishan Kishan went out against Pakistan, they had to slow down. And if Sky had been caught, who knows what USA might have bowled them out for, right? So
True. That really is a butterfly effect moment, I think, that Sky drop. But, I mean, look, sure, the wicket wasn't too complicated. Like, India should have definitely fared better with the bat. Corbin Bosch getting 2 for 12 in 3 overs and Maharaj getting 3 for 24 in 3 overs is insane. But Aiden Markram takes a leaf out of Salman Ali Agha's playbook at this point. Is everyone going to bowl the first over of off-spin versus India? Because he doesn't take Abhishek's wicket. He dismisses Ishan Kishan for a duck. But 1 over in the power play, 1 for 5. I mean, that's pretty good.
I think Varun might have it in front of him, but my memory is he's bowled the first over quite consistently, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Not every game, but it's something that I think he believes in as a concept. And I thought he bowled a shit ball outside off stump, and Ishan Kishan tried to smash it away and sort of got on top of it and hit it out to point. And I thought to myself, it's probably worth it just to see. Abhishek's not back yet, right? Like, as in, he hasn't had the big innings. He doesn't feel confident with it. Nope. And I kind of felt with Ishan that, like, again, maybe if you could just get him to sort of go in an ego battle with a part-timer. It's also the kind of over that could have gone for 26 runs, right? Like, it could have gone completely the other way. And we're all going, why would you do that on a wicket where there's,
he's bowled the first over 6 times.
Okay.
Did he do it earlier in the tournament? I've got a feeling he did it earlier in the tournament, but it might not have been.
Sure,
in
might
this tournament.
Yeah.
So
I think he's kind of convinced himself. He's actually quite this is one of those things. He's quite a good spinner with the new ball. Like, as in, he likes the feeling of it in his fingers. You can tell by the way
he has not.
Yeah, okay. I don't know where I saw him do it. Maybe it was another game, but I know it's something that he doesn't mind doing, and we've seen occasionally. But good on him, as you said. Barami might have just looked at the other sides and was like, it's worth a go.
Yeah, I mean, Salman Ali Agha, Aryan Dutt, both of those guys, right, have had success versus Abhishek.
Aryan Dutt definitely does that all the time, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But Salman Ali Agha barely ever bowls, so it has become a bit of a trend now, and maybe we'll see other teams deploy their off-spin bowler or part-time off-spinner in the first over. But there were other South Africans who had some top performances. Lungi Ngidi is having a great tournament, right? His dipping slower one, the one where he applies Magnus force or something, he goes for no runs today. In 1 power play over, he concedes 3 runs, none for 15 in 4 overs. And you know what? If you had asked me like 3 months ago what South Africa's best T20 starting 11 comes out to, I wouldn't have had Lungi Ngidi in that, but he's certainly like turned a page.
Really? You wouldn't have had him?
Yeah. I would have probably gone for more pace in Anrik Nokia. But right now I'm convinced that Lungi Ngidi is the guy, because that slow one is extremely hard to pick.
Anrik Nokia is like Lockie Ferguson, though, isn't he? If he's not at 100% fitness, you can't pick him because he goes for runs. Look, Ngidi is, I've been talking about these guys for years, Bravo and Harsh Patel and all these sorts of guys. When they have that much revolutions on the ball, there's a full toss he bowls to Shivam Dubé, and Shivam Dubé misses it by about, 3 inches, just because of the drop. And I think Robbie was on commentary at the time talking about it. It's so hard to hit those deliveries, and his ability to do that. And then on top of that, I don't think he bowls the knuckleball all that much, but he has the knuckleball. But now he's got this leg cutter, which is also quite tricky. He's just a clever bowler. He understands exactly where you're trying to hit him, and he tries to make sure that you can't hit him there. And the issue is when he's not putting revolutions on the ball, he can be a little bit fetch, right? But so I'm not trying to make fetch happen, but you know, he can. That's such a deep cut for no reason. But you know, he can be a little bit like
Does
that.
that Mean
But
Girls show, Jared?
is it Mean Girls? Is it
Mean Girls?
Clueless? Is it Clueless?
I know it was one of those.
Sometimes I say phrases that I know I've seen in a movie, but I couldn't tell you what movie it was. But yeah, if he doesn't have the revolutions on the ball, it floats down a little bit, right? But when he does, it just drops. And look, I think he's a fantastic bowler when fully fit. He's the sort of guy that I would probably have on my IPL franchise bench every year, waiting for the time when his elbow feels good or his wrist feels good or his shoulder, whatever it is, he gets revolutions on. Because you get 3 games where no one's going to hit him, right?
Also,
and then
the other thing
you can
is
drop him.
he's not actually. He's still bowling quite fast as well. He can bowl 140 quite regularly. So sometimes with the slower bowlers, that's the other issue. Right? If you're going from 130 to 120, it's less of a dip than going from 140 to 120, isn't it?
Well, it's also like it's not just 140 with him, is it? He's just strong. So he hits the bat really hard. So you have 2 extremes with him. You either have the ball hitting very hard high up on the bat because he's tall and strong, or you have the ball hitting way lower on the bat because he's got the dip on it. So very different to someone like you know, Dwayne Bravo, who's more skiddy. So his variations were different. So I think it's a good combination. But a lot of these the guys who have the great off cutters, it's basically, are you able to get the drop on the ball that you want to be able to get on it? And when you can, you're incredible. And when you can't, you know, Harshal Patel wasn't in the IPL every year, right? There was a reason for that. And that's because he couldn't get those revolutions.
True, and the discrepancy really needs to be pointed out over here because he's quite quick when he bowls pace on, and pace off is literally it's dying on you. The ball is just dipping into the ground, like it's going to go below the pitch. It seems like. So good day for Lungi Ngidi, but the best bowler on show today, even better than Jasprit Bumrah because South Africa won this game, I suppose, was Marco Jansen. Dismisses Tilak Verma with his first ball. Terrible shot by Tilak. Don't know what he was trying to do. And then he also gets Abhishek Sharma's wicket with his 9th delivery. 2 for 11 in 2 power play overs and overall 4 for 22 after 3.5 overs. Marco Jansen is a threat. He's just starting out. I feel like his best years are ahead of him. He can also strike it with the bat. Is he one of South Africa's most important cogs in this machine that they've built in T20s?
They fucking have to be if they're going to bat him at number 7 all the time.
I'd actually
don't think he has a choice.
Bosch ahead of him. I think I'd go Bosch ahead of Janssen in the batting order. Actually,
I think I'd pick someone who could bat at number 7. But I think that he hasn't had a good tournament so far, and I don't think he understands exactly his best skills as a T20 bowler yet. And I think he blows very hot and very cold. But you can keep him in the side because of the batting, and also. I know this sounds weird, but he's so tall on the boundary, he's probably worth a catch every 3 or 4 games as well that no other mammal is going to fucking reach, right? Like, I mean, but yeah, I thought that once that ball to Tilak Varma was really fascinating. Tilak Varma wasn't sure if he hit that or not. But I just thought, have a look at it. To me, it just bounced weird. Straight away, I didn't think he'd hit it. I was a bit like everyone else. I was like, he hasn't hit that, but that's bounced really odd. And that just makes him so tough to play against, right? And it's also in a tournament where the pitches are not quite flat and you want to, and you have to take risks against good bowlers. It's very hard to take a risk against someone who's 6'7" and gets the kind of the elevation that he gets, right? If you use a cross bat shot, there's always a chance of going straight up in the air. And so one of them was, as you said, Tilak Varma. I just think the bounce got him and his bat was slightly angled. But the Abhishek Sharma one is more that normal sort of extra bounce as well. So it's a huge weapon to have. I think we need to. I think he's got at least one more good bowling performance in him in this tournament. The thing that South Africa need in the future, especially because Rabada can run a bit hot and cold in T20s as well. They need a lockdown bowler. And if Ngidi can't always do what he needs to do, they've kind of got 4 guys, if you throw Norkia in, who can be the best bowler in the world or can get hit for 25 runs and over. They just need to find one guy who's a lockdown, and then you can kind of rotate it around a little bit more, right? And, you know, you look at India today, it hasn't worked for them, but they've got 2 lockdown bowlers. Even when Bumrah was out of form, they had Varun Chakravarti and vice versa. That's what Janssen has to get to. He's not there yet, but he's still going to do really good things on days like today.
Yeah, he's taken 2 forfeits now in this tournament, an expensive one versus New Zealand and a really good one versus India. We'll have to take a short break because apparently my audio or internet is acting up. So we still have South Africa's batting to discuss. But go nowhere. We'll be back after a short break. You're watching Commbox Live with Jared, Behram and Varun. And play the ad.
100 years ago. 100 years ago, something truly remarkable happened in cricket. No one knew how to get Bradman out. And so, some of the smartest minds in English cricket got together in a smoke-filled room at Lord's, and they talked it out. It is no different than you talking with your uncle, with you whispering at the back of the bus, with you sitting around in the tea room arguing with your friends. This is what we do in cricket. We love the game, we talk about the game. And that is what we do at Commbox, where the game lives on.
Welcome back to Commbox Live. You guys are with Behram, Jared and Varun. And so we've discussed South Africa's bowling in full detail. There weren't much notes on India anyway. But yeah, after being 3 down for 20 in 4 overs, South Africa were under the pump. It seemed like it'll be a one-sided game, and then there was the great rescue.
It was a one-sided game.
It was a one-sided game in the end, but, in the other way, or other direction, I suppose. 3 down for 20 in 4 overs versus India in the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, where you're flooded or surrounded by Indian fans who are obviously going to be very chirpy and noisy at that time, which they, of course, deserve to be. And then you have this wonderful partnership between Dewald Brevis and David Miller. Now, Brevis plays a high-impact knock himself. I think his 45 of 29 came at a perfect time for South Africa. And then Stubbs finishes off brilliantly, right? 2 sixes of the last 2 balls, unbeaten 44 of 24 and 3 catches. The player of the match, though, and I think deservedly so, was David Miller. He was heartbroken after that final in 2024 when Sky took that catch. Well, today he came in a pressure situation, 26 ball 50, and ends up with 63 of 35. A top job by the experienced South African batter. And I mean, he deserves some happy moments too in life, right? This guy's always heartbroken.
Do we suggest here, Varun, that the reason he made runs today is because the skill score came up on the screen and he looked up at it and it said he had a power rating of 64. My God. Imagine thinking David Miller is at a 64 power rating, right? That's where Max O'Dowd should be, not fucking David Miller. It's like, I don't know if he just hasn't hit any sixes for South Africa recently. I'm not sure how they make the power ranking, but I was like, I mean, this man can still clear the fence. I don't think he does it the way that he used to. I just really liked the way he thought about the innings today. When the ball was in the right area, he did what I would say that was more of an old school David Miller innings, Varun, like where he waits for the ball to be in his right area and he's just like, well, I'm going to hit that for 6, right? And the shot over cover was ludicrous as well. But I really liked the way he went about it, and he put the pressure back on India so quick. And him and Brevis, to be fair, they just put the pressure back on so much. Like I think it was DK was commentating saying that whoever was, I might have been Washi was bowling, and you could see that Washi was like, oh my God, they're going to come. They're going to come for me all the time. And that is hard to do when you're 3 down for not many. And I just thought it was a brilliant partnership. And my only fear was at the time was it just didn't quite last long enough. Like it was the 13th over, right? But in the end, Tristan Stubbs made it count enough. But I just thought it was brilliant from Miller. It was a really, really good knock. And it felt like the kind of knock that Miller used to play. And then over the last couple of years, he's got a little bit more 64 power rating over the last couple of years.
He starts the innings off with hitting Varun Chakravarti. He's not hit spin for a few years now, right?
Yeah.
And he starts his innings off with hitting spin. This is such an odd game because South Africa, if you look at the attacking shots, didn't actually attack much. Because I think in the end, India attacked more than they did. But 2 unusual things. South Africa's like, when they attacked, it went better for them than you'd expect. With some strike rate. For India, it went much worse than you'd expect. So I remember I was looking at this. So usually when you attack in India in this World Cup, you have about a strike rate of 270. South Africa's was like 330 and India's was like 146. Both those things are so far off what you'd expect from the average. It's such an odd game.
Yeah, and I think I was looking at this the other day. I was looking at the kinds of, we're doing a piece on the different kinds of batters, and the South African batters are very similar to the English batters in that generally they don't have any dot balls. Right, they're just always scoring runs off you, but they don't have the top end power of, let's say, the Australians or the West Indians, who are a slightly different style to them. And you look at guys like Stubbs and Miller, and I think we still think about the amount of times we've seen them hit 4s and 6s, but actually, both of them play kind of within themselves and have for a while now. But then when they try and hit a six, they seem to hit sixes. And Brevis is another one of, I kind of feel with Brevis, Brevis can hit 4 sixes and over at any stage. But also, I'm never that surprised when Brevis hits like 8 singles in a row, right? Like he's waiting for, he doesn't chew up any dot balls. And the minute you give him something, they fully commit to trying to hit a six, which is very different than the sort of the West Indian Australian method of we kind of try and hit your best ball for a six occasionally, right? And it's fascinating to watch it. South Africa will allow you to bowl at them, but that's not what they did today. And that's why, you know, really respect the way that they went about it.
Yeah, because initially I could understand they were soaking in the pressure. They want to consolidate a bit after being 3 down for 20 after 4 overs. But then they start to hit. And I remember when the game was 13 overs old in the first innings, I told Saad on the live that technically 200 is on now because they've got some power remaining in that batting lineup. And the way Miller is batting alongside, I think Brevis was still around then, it could be or end up to be quite a total for India to chase over here. But then they get Brevis out, and Miller also falls to Varun, who had a shit day but got that big wicket, right? In the 16th over, I believe. And then it's the Stubbs heroics towards the end, and it's just that last over where he attacks. Before that, he's just kind of knocking the ball around, which I found to be really, really fascinating. So you could say it was a very measured or calculated approach by South Africa, and ultimately India were way short as far as the total is concerned. So good win for the Proteas, and commiserations to Indian fans, who I think should still qualify for the semis because they've got Zimbabwe and the West Indies coming up.
I've seen a lot of people talking about... Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking about net run rates for India. Obviously not ideal.
Yeah.
If they win that, the margin of defeat might have big implications. Oh, here we go. If 3 teams win 2 matches. Yeah, so that's only if 3 teams win 2 matches, Andy, and actually, does it become a bit of a net run rate thing? If I'm an Indian fan at the moment, I wouldn't be worried about that. I'd be more focused on the fact that they'll be red hot favorites in the next 2 games, right? Mind you, they were red hot favorites for this game as well, but they'll be red hotter favorites for the next 2 games. I'd be more worried about that at that stage. But look, anything could happen in this tournament. You can come back from a net run rate. They could bowl like Zimbabwe and West Indies are very possible to be bowled out for under 120, and you could chase it down in 8 overs, like a team like India, right? Like we have to remember that you can cut. We always over-index on good teams. If they're in form, can overcome net run rate. Good teams out of form, right? Probably might not qualify anyway, but good teams in form can overcome net run rate. And so many times in these tournaments, people go on and on about like an early result about net run rate. And usually what happens is afterwards, it doesn't matter because one of the good team then comes back. So I wouldn't be too worried about that at all. I'd be just more worried about the fact that we're a significant chunk into this tournament and we haven't seen India play a complete game yet, right? I wouldn't even be worried about this loss.
Well, right?
Yeah,
they've not actually batted well this tournament, and this was probably the worst. It had to go wrong at some point, and it went wrong today for them.
Yeah, and it could have gone wrong before, as we said as well.
Yeah.
And also, have they had a game where Jasprit and Varun have bowled well at the same time? And I don't mean figures wise. I mean Jasprit is putting the ball exactly where he wants, right?
No, I want to say
right. So it's not been the ideal tournament for them so far. They're not out of it, obviously, at this point. But I would worry about net run rate if they scrape over the line against West Indies or Zimbabwe. Other than that, I wouldn't even have that in my head at the moment.
No. And they could easily catch up on net run rate by decimating Zimbabwe or the West Indies, as Jared said. So anyway, I think that's enough on this game. But we've got a few super chats which we can bring up, which are pertinent to India's loss today. And let's go through them. Rohit Kumar Jha, first up, says, Aura so goated a single loss in 26 ICC games. Shakes the world. Good to have a bad game before knockouts. Rare occasion of me favoring Pakistan. So final happens in Sri Lanka. So I think a lot of people are upset with respect to the stadium, which I can't quite tell, or I don't have enough info. But look, India can very well make the semis. I think there's nothing to kind of be afraid of right now.
There's no issue there. Look, I don't think the Aura should be dented because they lost today. As I said, it should more be that we have not seen them anywhere near their best cricket so far. Yep. I don't think they played their best cricket in the Asia Cup either, right? And in bilateral cricket, it's almost at the moment they feel like that old England team that was set up for the wrong tournament at the wrong time. That's kind of how it feels, but the talent is still there. You know, they should still be favourites. I don't know what their chances are of winning, but I would still say they're about a 40% chance of winning this tournament, looking at the market odds. I don't think anything has massively changed when it comes to that.
Yeah, and as we always say, like World Cups are problem-solving tournaments. They have problems that they need to solve.
Yeah. And Akshay will probably come in the next game as well. And India will surely play better than this versus the next two opponents they have, I think. Prithvi says, I think India should refuse to play in Ahmedabad, citing my mental health. I mean, this is the stadium that they built for the grand occasion, no?
It looked lovely today. Jeez, how quiet did it get when Janssen took the third wicket? Fuck me. Like, I know we always go on about how quiet those stadiums could get, but maybe I had my mute on because I was just like, geez, like even the MCG would have murmuring. There was no murmuring.
It was like a library, an 80,000 people library, I suppose. Prithvi once again with another super chat says, I think all South African players saw the cupcake ad in the promo for this game. Also, the game was lost when Temba was booked for commentary. I mean, Temba has had some success in India, but of course there's no correlation there. The ad, though, was so bad that even Indian fans were calling it out. Big time. I don't know if you caught it, Jared.
I started watching it and I got bored halfway through. And I don't know if I know the end. All I remember is there's two fans running for a cupcake. And then South African gets it first, and I can't tell you if it was bad and I've forgotten it, or but what happens after that? Can you just fill me in?
Oh, I'll give you the lowdown, right? The South African reaches the cupcake first. The Indian fan says you can have the cupcake, but we won the cup last time in Barbados, and then the South African fan chokes on the cupcake.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ. That's so much worse
there
than
were
where I thought it was
layers to
going.
this, man. There were fucking layers.
I pulled out of that ad at the perfect time. Because I kind of figured that's where we were going with it, I think. And I just went, I can't be bothered with this. But yeah, okay. Yeah. It's not a good ad.
Cup joke and a choke joke wrapped in one. Yeah, Star Sports got a fair bit of flack for that, and deservedly so, because it was a stupid ad, and now people are going to quote tweet the ad and take the piss. Anyway,
just on the ad, can I just say a couple of...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just on the ad, I just want to say that when I was in South Africa in the 2003 World Cup, every second ad played on radio was slagging off Australians, right? And we didn't know as Australians that South Africans actually cared that much about us, because I couldn't imagine there would ever be an ad in Australia slagging off South African cricketers. Like, it was so bizarre to us. And so, to be fair, I have seen South Africa do the same thing before. So, this is nothing new for them.
Yeah. Anyway, Ali Sayed has a super chat who says both home teams got smashed today. Yeah, I mean, I was feeling a bit sorry for all those fans, the Sri Lankan ones and the Indian ones, because this was supposed to be a big day and Sri Lanka really should have won that game as well. Yeah, you don't get to see that very frequently, that both home teams got smashed. Not just defeated, they got smashed.
Yeah, got absolutely hammered.
Nikhil Makwana with a super chat says, each city brings a different crowd. Ahmedabad seems very sensitive. Chennai and Mumbai is far better. I cannot speak to that.
That's very common across cricket. You do get really different kinds of crowds at different grounds, and I haven't been to Ahmedabad, so I can't talk about that. But there's no doubt that having followed cricket all around the world, wickets against your home team or boundaries against your home team are very different in different parts of the world. Like, Lords, you'll get it celebrated for a boundary, whereas up north in England they might not celebrate the opposition scoring a boundary in the same way, right? Like, it's very different everywhere you go. It's one of the great things about cricket. But they were very quiet.
I think both things work, right? When they are only supporting the home team, then you get the fortress feel. Whereas I feel Pakistan doesn't have that. When we get an opposition team play in Pakistan, they're celebrated, maybe perhaps because cricket was away from the country for so long. But I do feel at times there should be a fortress feel, right? You should add the pressure as a 12th man.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That's how it should be, isn't it?
Yeah. But I do think, though, if that's the case, the fans almost have to be educated by the players a little bit to be like, because remember what Australia said in 2003? What was their whole plan? Can we silence the crowd? Right? Can we take the crowd out of it? And what's the loudest thing in the world is the absence of sound, right? Yeah. And so if you go to the MCG, when Australia's losing, there's still a bit of a buzz around it, right? Whereas when it's really noticeable is when Australia is losing at the MCG on days 3 and 4, and it gets really dead quiet because there isn't 180,000 people there. There's like 30,000 people there, and you notice that. So my point is that like that is all part of it, right? It puts pressure on the home fans as well. Like anyone who's ever played in front of like an audience will know what it's like when the game goes against you, when all your friends are at the boundary watching you, and none of them are saying shit.
Yeah. Final question for both of you before we go towards another ad break. When is Abhishek Sharma scoring runs?
I thought he looked okay
Next
today.
game?
Just the pitch was a little bit tacky, and the balls weren't always coming on. As I said, there was a little bit of bounce there, but I thought he lined up fine today.
Yeah.
At least he
I don't
has
think he
now
picked the
scored
slow ball
runs
today, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's coming. A big score is coming. But anyway, that's it on the India-South Africa game. And we have one more game to review. But before that, we'll be taking a short break. You guys are watching Commbox Live with Behram, Jared, and Varun. Go nowhere. We will be back very, very shortly.
100 years ago, something truly remarkable happened in cricket. No one knew how to get Bradman out. And so, some of the smartest minds in English cricket got together in a smoke-filled room at Lord's, and they talked it out. It is no different than you talking with your uncle, with you whispering at the back of the bus, with you sitting around in the tea room arguing with your friends. This is what we do in cricket. We love the game, we talk about the game. And that is what we do at Commbox, where the game lives on.
Welcome back to Commbox Live. You guys are with Behram, Jared, and Varun, and we've covered the South Africa-India game. Now we're headed to Palekele, where England handed Sri Lanka quite a hefty defeat of 51 runs. Again, this was a game Sri Lanka should have won. Everything was going in their favour. They win the toss. Dasun Shanaka opts to chase. He wants to field first, and they get England out at a below par total. They're chasing 147. What have you done, Sri Lanka?
Yeah, it's pretty poor from there, wasn't it? I mean, to be honest, I kind of felt that at times Sri Lanka let the game drift when they were bowling as well, where they could have just put the foot on the throat of England. Because early on they had leg slips and all sorts of things happening, right? And then later on, I felt they just went, oh, they're not going to get that many, and we'll let them not get that many. And it was always a tricky pitch. And then on top of that, Sri Lanka then decided that you had to score all the runs in the power play. Like, what the fuck was that about? Right? They were just going absolutely ballistic, trying to score all the runs up front. I was like, this is not that wicked, because I expected to come out and be like, if we're 45 without loss after 6, we're cruising.
Yeah. I mean, it was a slow pitch. There wasn't some turn or vicious turn on offer, though. It was just slow, right? Like
Slow,
you had to
yeah.
adjust yourself to the pace of the wicket. The turn wasn't really there. No violent turn. But the outfield was soggy either way. 147 was at least like 15 runs below par for me. I was thinking 160 as that golden score when England were batting. And you're right that Sri Lanka didn't really entirely put their foot on the gas. The fielding was so fascinating by Sri Lanka, man. Salt gave Theekshana a chance, and that ball slipped under him when Salt was on 15. Tom Banton was then run out by Shanaka, brilliant effort. Then Chamira misses a run out, if you remember. That goes for 4 overthrows.
That misses is not the right word. The ball was in a different hemisphere than the stumps. He would have run him out by
basically
3 meters if he'd got it anywhere near the stumps.
Yeah. Anyway, there's that run-out howler, which ultimately ends up in 4 overthrows. There's a misfield as well on the boundary. And then they took some great catches. It's not like they caught poorly. It was so weird.
I was going to message Estelle today to be like, this is some of the best fielders that Sri Lanka have had in a long time. And it's also some of the worst fielders that Sri Lanka have had in a long time. Like, Theekshana, I mean, Hasaranga's not playing. Asalanka's slow as hell.
Patharana's not playing, yeah.
Yeah, they've got some guys like that are really bad in the field. But they also, Dhananjaya De Silva's not playing, right? And he's one of their best fielders. But you look at some of these guys and they're like, wow, they're incredibly athletic and they move really well. And then they throw the ball 5 meters wide of the stumps for no reason. It's a very patchy thing. But as I said, I just felt that they thought, it actually reminded me of the sort of old ODI games where you just think you're ahead of the game so you don't push, right? And you have to kill these sides off. And I think, England's only chance really was getting over 135. And so I would have just pushed to get them under 135. And if they get to 155, like, okay, well, we had a go. It didn't quite work. Now we're going to have to try and chase closer to par. That's okay. We're still in the game. Whereas if you bowl them out for 127 or 130, that's it. The game would have been over.
Yeah, Jared. Also,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
England
just
did
me,
not
but
really
I feel
have-
like Shamir bowls very well to only be 1 for 36 every game. Like, I don't know. I feel like he does it very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is a
I
bit of a
mean,
trend
Shamir
now.
is another one of these guys like Norkia, right? When he's fully fit, he looks like one of the best bowlers in the world. And then when he's not fully fit, he looks like you or I are bowling, Varun.
Also, like,
Yeah.
I think
If you
Hemanta
look
is
at the
such a
phase-wise
hilarious
play-
bowler, though. Because usually with spinners, right, if you bowl like the 4 to 7 meter length, and it's much better, much more economical than any other length. With him, it's
Yeah.
just he gets smashed on both. I'm like, I don't know how that makes sense. He's going in over 9 and over when he bowls the hard length, or when he's bowling absolute filth, which is very odd. He just gets more wickets when he bowls length.
He just doesn't look like a frontline bowler to me, if we're being honest.
Same.
You know, they're
He-
pushing him as much, but he was one of the ones today where I was like, I think that's when you bring on Mendes to bowl, right? I would have brought on Mendes to maybe try and slide one in or come up with something different. Look, it felt like England were waiting for him to bowl. From the way I was looking at it.
Yeah, we were discussing, Jared, earlier whether Sri Lanka should just go with a 7-4 formation as opposed to 8-3 and slip in Jeffrey Van der Sey. Well, Dushan Hemanta, I think the 3-4 that he took versus Australia kind of threw them off. Otherwise, they might have tried Van der Sey. But if you look at England's entire innings...
But if Van der Sey's
they
not in the
didn't
squad,
have a-
though, is he now?
He's not? Oh, well, then he isn't.
No, because we thought he was going to come into the squad, and they picked a random guy who had not been playing against England to come into the squad over the guy who'd been playing against England.
Yeah, it is odd. But England, if you look at them in each phase, look, 37 for 2 in the power play, not a good power play at all. At the 10 over mark, they were 68 for 4, really reeling. And then finally, there was some impetus, after which they lost wickets, 106 for 6 after 15 overs. They shouldn't have gotten to 146 for 9 and 20. You're right. They should have kept them at 130 tops.
No, look, and
Sri Lanka.
I think they've just got a bit of a mindset at the moment. I wonder if Patharana is in this side. He just, or even Malinga, a guy like that might have just attacked the stumps. Whereas Chamira's big thing, you know, to go back to what Varun was saying before, his big thing is really bowling like down the leg side, right? Like these bowling around the wicket, bowling these tricky balls and everything, which are meant to stop you from scoring. Which in a normal situation is fine, but in a game like this, mate, you're bowling 90 miles an hour. Let's just see if you can knock the stumps down a little bit here. Let's see if they can play some pull and hook shots when they're from a position of weakness, right? Like Will Jacks was knocking them around okay, but no one else looked like scoring a run, right? So just try and get through those guys as quickly as possible. Even like Liam Dawson's innings is fascinating because I don't know, Varun, if we've ever seen a 6 off 11 win a game before, but maybe it did.
Maybe it did.
It was it was a fascinating innings. I think Rob hated that innings, didn't he? He was slagging him off.
It's the greatest 6 off 11 in T20 history.
I mean, Sri Lanka just implode in their batting power play, right? Like, it's weird. Pawan Rathnayake, he's been in good form, comes out and tries to slam the first ball for 6. You only needed to chase 147. You could have just kind of crawled to this total, man. You didn't have to accelerate, and they were 34 for 5 in the power play. 34 for 5. Bowled out for 95 and 16.4 overs. Surely you put up a bit of a fight. You try to, you know, stick yourself in the crease and try to spend some time out in the middle. That's all you needed to do. Eventually, there'll be a partnership. You'll win the game. But no.
So Pawan Rathnayake, I know we've seen him hit a little bit in this tournament at times, but he's got what, like a 50 first class average or something, right? Like he's like a legit batter. And up until recently, he's been a bit of an anchor. I know in T20 internationals, it won't look that way because he's got a strike rate of like 160 or something ridiculous. But my point is, he's not like a thrasher, right? He's not Ross Adair from Ireland, right? He's not Abhishek Sharma. He's like a proper batter who has the ability to go up and down through gears. He comes in at number 4. It's really important that you guys remember this. He comes in at number 4, and clearly he is told, smack the fuck off this ball, right? There's no doubt that is what he is told. And I'm like, okay, so that hasn't come off. So now I'm expecting Kaminda Mendes to come in, knock the ball around for a little bit, rebuild this for a second, and then put the pressure back on. Because there's plenty of chances to put the pressure back on to this England side, right? They're not a great bowling lineup, right? You've lost your early wickets, fine. And instead, they promote Walalage as a pinch hitter. They double down on this idea that they have to go hard. And that's the bit I didn't understand. Like, I understand that you've decided we're going to go as hard as we can at the top. But once you've lost a third wicket for 20 in the 3.4 overs, why? I'm not saying don't attack, but why send in a non-specialist batter to slog? Right? No, well, like, I think he's a very good player. Don't get me wrong. But he wasn't sent in to be a very good player. He was sent in to swing off his ass, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
The first innings, I'd at least understand it. It's a bit like the South African thing. Make better of attacking than going into a shell. But you're chasing 147. It was not a lot of runs. And it's not like, if this was one of those pitches where you could see the pitch slowing down after the power play, I'd also understand. That was not the case at all. England just did not bat well at all. It was
the same pace pretty much all the way through, wasn't it?
Yeah,
all the way through. Yeah,
I actually think I yelled out "You Muppet" when Velalage got out. It was very rare. So, like, a wicket will get that reaction out of me.
So I think but the thing is, I don't think it was his fault
more than the Indian one, right?
But I mean, we've talked about this as well.
It's not his role.
Yeah, Mashara goes out. So Mashara was, I'm trying to remember, was that Overton took the catch off Archer, right? And absolutely fine, right? I get it. He was giving himself some room. He's out. But at that stage, they are 22 for 4 after 4.5. And Walalage now been sent into pinch hit. The pinch hit thing is over, dude. Right? It's finished. Yeah. Your job now is to make sure that you guys get out of the power play and that whoever is at the other end, you two can put some runs together for the next 20 or 30 balls. And instead, he just heaved the ball off Will Jack straight up. Was it straight up in the air? I can't even remember how he went out. I was so angry.
Was it mid-on, I want to say?
Yeah.
Out?
Yeah, it was mid-on. It was just a heave across the line, right? Like, he didn't need to be playing that shot at that time.
The thing was, right, so Commander gets a 4 and then Velalage gets 2 4s in a row. He doesn't need to do that. They already were like 34 for 5 after, what was it? I want to say 5.2. He could have blocked all 4 balls and they would have still been fine. That's okay. Like, you didn't need to go hard. You could have gone at like 6 runs and over for like about 8 overs and still been well in control of the game.
But surely Kaminda Mendes comes out with a message to Walalage going, I know the plan was for you to maximize the power play. That plan is fucking dead.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, right? Sri Lanka weren't the only team that were 3 down for 20 today. And one team rebuilded knowing they'll need a big total. Sri Lanka needed 147. They never even thought of rebuilding, which is so odd to me, right? And fine, Jofra Archer takes 2 for 20 in 3 power play overs. Okay, he's Jofra. You guys have gotten out to Will Jacks. I slagged him off yesterday. When we were building the team of the tournament, that was like,
they were 5 down without Adil Rashid bowling a ball in Sri Lanka.
3 for 14 in 2 power play overs.
Yeah.
It was insane. Bad. Will Jackson 2 power play overs was 3 for 14, or three power play overs he was 3 for 14. Ends up with 3 for 22. He was on a hat trick at one point, guys. The real spin shady has stood up, scored some clutch runs with the bat as well, and took a catch or set up a catch. The parry. It was an insane game for Will Jacks. He's been England's MVP. The bleach has done it for England.
He's been fantastic. I mean, I thought Josh Butler. I thought Phil Salt's innings was really really important because he was sick as a dog. I don't know how he will recover for the next game. I'm hoping he's going to do well. Yeah. But he was, after almost every ball, he was down on his haunches. The umpires had to tell him to hurry up, which is a cold, hard fact, right? Unfortunately, mate, you just got to get up and bat. But no one else could bat or could stay in at all. And I thought Will Jacks batted really well for them. I thought there was the shot through cover at one stage. I really liked the way he was thinking his way through the innings. He probably, by going out just towards the end, cost them, the extra 5 or 10 runs that they were expecting. And then he comes on the bowl, and I mean, it's like the Kusil Mendes one. This is what I don't understand. They've gone out a combination of soft cock pushes, right? And dirty slogs. It's such a weird way to lose 5 wickets early on. Of like, you go back and you have a look at the way they were batting. They were taking so many risks, but then 2 of their wickets were just pushing the ball back to the bowler. I'd be fascinated to know how England feel about that game as well, because they didn't bat particularly well. Everything went well with the ball, but so I did the video yesterday about the questions I had for this tournament, right? And one of the main questions I had was, is Sri Lanka any good? Right? And I sit here in front of you both today, still absolutely unsure of whether they're any good or not. I have no idea, guys, if this is a good side or not.
They're very good
Yeah,
as long
well-
as Nissanka makes runs.
I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that simple, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've lost both of Hasaranga and Patharana to injury as well, so they're not particularly set up to make it past the Super 8 round. But today was just bad decision making. They should have tried something different than softcock pushes and all-out attack. And there are some positives for them. I think the bowling was quite good. Willalage might have not understood the task with the bat or couldn't acclimate to the game situation, but he took 1 for 16 in 2 power play overs, then ends up with 3 for 26. His wickets are Butler, Salt, and Brook. So those are big wickets. He had a really good day with the ball. Theekshana was brilliant once again. 1 for 5 in the power play. The 1 power play over he bowled, it was a wicket off his first ball, Jacob Bethel. Ends up with 2 for 21, so good day for him as well. And the really good plus point for me is Dilshan Madhushanka. I saw him in the ODI World Cup and I was quite impressed. The left arm quick. He is this weird guy who doesn't go for many runs but doesn't take a lot of wickets either. So none for 16, I think, in 3 power play overs, and then 2 for 25 ultimately, including the wicket of Will Jack. So that's it, I feel, in terms of positives. No other positives.
Also,
Yeah,
sorry,
I
I
thought-
just want to say, wasn't Madhushanka like in the ODI World Cup? Didn't he go for a lot of runs but also get a lot of wickets? Am I misremembering, or was that a
He
different one?
did take wickets then, but in T20s, he doesn't do that, weirdly.
I mean, yeah, I like him. I thought Shamira bowled well as well. I've no issue. I don't really have any issue with the way they bowled. I have an issue with the fact that I think Shanaka is. I was really happy early on when he had the leg slips in and he was trying for wickets, because I think that's how you beat England, right?
Yeah.
But I just feel that after a certain point, he did that thing that we used to see in limited overs cricket, which I just don't think works anymore. Teams are too good now at. It's not just that teams are good at hitting out at the end, because England didn't score that many runs at the end.
Yeah.
But it's also that teams attack more looking for wickets. So this kind of score a few years ago, England would have tried to nip out a couple of early wickets, and they would have just hoped then that the opposition then put pressure on themselves. Whereas now teams actually think actively about taking wickets a lot more aggressively than they did. You know, when I first started working in T20 cricket, I would go up to bowlers and be like, "You should do this plan to get this guy out." They'd be like, "No. My job is not to get them out. My job is to stop them scoring." And you watch modern cricket now, it's not that case. So knowing that is possible, and that Jofra Archer is going to have the new ball, and you're only 2 or 3 wickets away, and if it wasn't Jofra, it could have been Adil Rashid, right?
Yeah.
They could have got away in the power play, and then Adil takes 2 or 3 wickets. There's always a chance of that. So I think you have to push hard when you're that far ahead in the game. And, I never looked at the odds at that stage, but I would have thought they were a massive chance of winning that game. And then not so much.
Yeah, plus England were brilliant in the field as well. Sri Lanka were hot and cold. They were violent in terms of greatness and poor fielding, whereas England were very reliable, took all their catches. There was one misfield by Bethel early on. First ball of the Will Jacks over, I think, in the power play. But other than that, they were good. But we talk of England as this team that will have to outbat opposition teams, right, to win games. Their bowling doesn't really flatter this entire unit, but look at the figures today, man. I mean, they'll all be happy. Overton is 1 for 13 in 2 overs. Adil Rashid started bowling when the game was done, 2 for 13 in 3.4 overs. Even Liam Dawson, who I don't think bowled particularly well, he's got figures of 2 for 27 in his 4 overs.
to be
It's
fair,
weird.
That's kind of a perfect wicket for Dawson, and it might have been a perfect wicket for Jacks. I don't want to sell the England bowlers short, but I did actually have to watch this Sri Lankan batters bat, so I do know that they played a big part in their dismissals. Look, England got a good game out of their bowlers. They're going to need 2 or 3 more good games out of their bowlers to probably do well in this tournament. Their batting just doesn't look like it's going to blow too many, especially if the ball is going to spin or hold. I mean, they've come away from this and they've won really easily. It was dire watching them bat in the first innings, wasn't it? Really, it really was. So I think their best batter outside of Phil Salt might have been the overthrows.
Yeah. I mean, Will Jacks was probably the second best batter, but Phil Salt, I don't know if he'll recover for the next game. He ultimately got to his 50 of 36 balls, which is slow for Phil Salt, but he was the best batter on this day. Ends up with 62 of 40, but he looked done after the 10 over mark. It felt like Phil Salt cannot carry on. He has been a plus point for England in the power play and finally has gotten a 50-plus score. What in the world is going on with Joss Butler? Is he finished? 7 of 14 today, and he scored 60 runs in 5 innings in this tournament. Surely there's another innings in
Finished?
him. Is he?
Finished?
I don't know. People have been saying that. I can't say. He's looked terrible. It doesn't seem like he knows where his next run is coming from.
Yeah, but isn't that just form?
I don't know about finish, but he's been in shit form. Like today was.
I mean,
horrible
how's
to watch.
Abhishek Sharma's form been in the last week and a half?
Yeah.
Well,
Do you know what I
Abhishek is
mean?
young. Joss Butler not so young, is he?
But what's the difference? Like sometimes you just don't make runs, right? Like that. I mean, how did he go in the last IPL, Varun?
No, he did well.
at
He
number
did well.
3.
Yeah, so that was within the last 12 months. Like he's not finished, is he? I don't think he's the same player he used to be. And it was really interesting. Did you guys see that whole thing with Nasser Hussain when Nasser basically said you need to play a longer innings, and Joss is like, well, that's not what the team needs. And I kind of get why both men are saying what they are saying. What Nasser is saying is face 40 balls in one game, you'll catch up with your strike rate, and it will be better for the whole tournament. And what Joss is saying is we want to go hard and fast, right? And Nasser is saying, well, that's great, but you can't do that if you're batting the way that, I mean, today he looked like he was, he looked like he was using his little finger as a bat. It really did look like he was struggling out there at times, right? So I think I get that, but it's interesting to me that Joss Butler reacted to that, right? I just don't think Joss Butler is the same player he used to be. And he kind of feels to me at the moment, Varun, like he's either going to score 100 or he's not going to stay in very long, right? And the last couple of years, he's not the exciting player he was a few years back. So, look, he's still a fantastic player. He's certainly not finished. I don't know why Bayram ended Joss Butler's career on this podcast, but
I said people are saying this. I didn't say it. But he has looked off color. Anyway,
I mean, people
who has
also say
entered the
the
studio?
earth is flat as well. Like
Kyrie Irving also said that, Jared. If
and
you
look at how
remember.
his fucking career's gone since then. So
Anyway,
look, I'd be worried about his form. And also, here's my thing. I just wonder if they shouldn't just change his role in the batting order again. He wasn't always an opener. He was the world's best lower order player for ages. He was probably even better than AB at that sort of 5-6 position, right?
yeah.
Maybe just try him there. They've got like 33 more openers in this squad.
Yeah, Ben Duckett could feature. He's a good player of spin. He could open perhaps. But final question for you guys. England have Pakistan up next. If they defeat Pakistan, they've got one foot in the semi. And it's a very weird game, right? Both teams have a very high ceiling and low floor. It's going to be entertaining as hell. And England have the advantage of playing in Palekele already. So there's that.
Yeah, a lot of this depends on if it's a slow pitch and if it spins. Right. If I'm Pakistan, I don't want to play them in Palekele. I want to play them down in Colombo.
Yeah, but the question is, will Pakistan harder than England will England? Or will England harder than Pakistan will Pakistan?
That is $1 million question.
That also should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Might be a toss-dependent game because there is dew at night in Palekele, so I think both sides will want to chase. But anyway, England might just make the semis. They've got a big win versus Sri Lanka. They've won a lot versus Sri Lanka recently, but this was one that they've got away with because it was a loss written all over this game up until Sri Lanka just decided to not win.
Up until Sri Lanka batted.
Yeah. Anyway,
They turned
no more
probably the
soup
worst spinner in this tournament into an incredible bowler today. It was.
Wow.
Hey,
it was
look,
funny.
They didn't. What about Brian Bennett? Are we just pretending Brian Bennett doesn't exist?
I think
so
Jax has
sure
been going
that-
at nearly 14 before this game, so I mean,
Yeah,
I'll give
dude,
him
he
that. So,
was unbowlable. I was taking the piss out of Harry Brook that why do you continue to give Will Jacks the ball? I literally said this yesterday when we were making the T20 team of the group stages, the World Cup group of the team of the group stages. And here we are. Will Jacks is player of the match. Important runs, a good catch set up, and 3 for 22. So I suppose he'll be England's main man versus Pakistan, and we shall see what happens in that game. No more super chats either. So thank you all for your interactions and your super chats. We really do appreciate them. We'll be live once again tomorrow after the night game. And till then, make sure to follow Commbox everywhere. Like, share, and subscribe. And leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Till then, you guys have a good one. Enjoy yourselves and goodbye.
100 years ago, something truly remarkable happened in cricket. No one knew how to get Bradman out. And so, some of the smartest minds in English cricket got together in a smoke-filled room at Lord's, and they talked it out. It is no different than you talking with your uncle, with you whispering at the back of the bus, with you sitting around in the tea room arguing with your friends. This is what we do in cricket. We love the game, we talk about the game. And that is what we do at Commbox, where the game lives on.